Hello everyone and welcome to A Slice of My Life. This has been, well, a long time coming, and there are a couple of things that I want to get off my chest before continuing with this afterthoughts, or I guess this follow-up review on the FocusWorks Axis Micro. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the good people over at FocusWorks, Jordy, Wallace, as well as my man Pluke Jones. Thank you guys so much for all the trust and putting your faith in me and that confidence that you have for me to review your version of the Axis Micro. I know I took a really long time to get this follow-up review done, and well, it's no excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses here. I did take a very long time, and I really appreciate the patience and the understanding that you guys have shown me, you know, not chasing me, not asking me when this follow-up review is going to be done. And that leads me to the second thing. The reason why I have taken so long to make this follow-up video is, well, to be honest, I actually did take a couple of, maybe even 3 follow-up review videos, but the thing is, I really wasn't satisfied with the way I made those reviews. I felt that it was a little bit, it could have been a little bit biased. And the reason why is because you guys know that I actually bought the original Axis Micro by LRS, and the honest truth is that I wasn't really satisfied with this spinner that I received from LRS. And when I was making that review, you know, it was pretty negative, and a lot of people gave me shit for it. A lot of people started to talk smack about my, I guess, my integrity. And at the end of the day, when LRS turned out to be a couple of douchebags, everyone turned their backs against them and started to talk shit. And that really made me reflect, you know, especially coupled with the recent drama about the whole pressure bar. You know, it's a totally different situation altogether, I understand, but that made me think about fanboyism all over again. And I was thinking, well, it wasn't that cheap, and it arrived not in a perfect 100% condition or quality. I wouldn't give this a 10 out of 10 when I received it. So when Jordy of FocusWorks stepped up and said that he was gonna take the helm and follow up on all the orders of the Axis Micro, you know, everyone was like, yes, all hail Jordy Wallace. You know, everyone was supporting him, was rooting for him, and so was I. And you know, when I first received this piece, and yes, they gave this to me for review, I didn't pay for it. And the biggest thing that I noticed was that this part was very well finished now versus the original version when it was very sharp and had some dings and scratches on it. Immediately I liked it because, well, for a few reasons. One, because Jordy is a great guy. Number 2, because he's got Pluke on his side, and Pluke is also another great guy. Really wonderful members of the community. They're not shady at all. Very straight up people, very honest people. And they also made this a little bit cheaper with very good machining. And I was thinking, well, am I being biased because of that? You know, all the negative feelings from this coupled with the positive feelings from this, did it somehow subconsciously make it even more desirable for me? Do I really feel so good about this spinner? And that is the reason why I kept on retaking my reviews. Every time I did a review, I went back and re-watched my own review, and I was thinking, could this be some form of favoritism? Could it be some kind of, you know, subconscious bias towards the new version? And that was not until I brought these two to Tetris, and I know I didn't get any footage of that, and I apologize, but I brought these two to Tetris and I asked him, like, which do you think is better, just based off gut feel, because he's never actually handled any of the Axis Micros before, and he just veered towards this. And yes, of course, I gotta say that I have stonewashed this, and the reason why I stonewashed it is because I wanted to round out all these edges. I was very satisfied. I still am actually satisfied with the way I finished it, and it's really smooth now. And mind you, both of these have a core inside, and they both are now currently running on R188 bearings. So I brought this to Tetris and I asked him to just give it a shot, and then he just naturally veered towards the FocusWorks version, and he said that he couldn't really explain why, but this felt like it was of a higher quality, you know, despite the fact that this has been stonewashed already. And just going by gut feel, he just preferred the FocusWorks version, and that made me, you know, more confident in just putting my thoughts out there. And I would very confidently say that the honeymoon period of this is well over now, because it's been months, you know. So here I am at this point where I'm gonna talk about what I really think of the FocusWorks Axis Micro. The reason why I really wanted an Axis Micro in the first place is because of Fabian's review. You guys know Fabian of SpinSpace. Yes, he also runs a SpinSpace channel. But at that point of time when he was reviewing the Axis Micro, the first version that came out, he made it up to be like the quintessential design for a wonderful fidgeter, and he kept on saying that it was the best fidgeter that he'd ever experienced. And we're talking about in line of the OG classic spinners. You know, he had like the flat top, the stubby, and then we had the tri. Basically, I think that in terms of being a classic design, the Axis Micro is a classic tri design. And when we're talking about the classics, I'm talking about the first line, you know, the first line of classic spinners like the OG rotor blade, the stubby, torque bar, bow tie by United Machining, and we have the tri spinner of the classics batch, you know, because at that point of time, everything was all bars, but when the Axis Micro came out, it was a different take totally from the standard bearing wrap design, and it had these very beautiful smoothed out edges here, and well, that allowed you to have your finger very comfortably hitting any of these wastes or these indents here. You know, so this was touted to be the best fidgeter out of the whole lot. Now, at that point of time, I wasn't really interested in tries at all because I still am, until today, a true blue bar guy. But I wanted to get an Axis Micro simply because I really wanted something that I could just fidget with. So fast forward to today. Do I think this stands that test of time? I would say yes, it does. The Axis Micro is still a very classic looking design. It looks beautiful. Like, honestly speaking, it looks beautiful. There's no extra details on it, but it does have very, very nice angled cuts on the sides here, so it's comfortable all around. The machining on this is really on point. You know, I believe that the tooling was also monitored very, very well, swapped out at the correct times, because you don't actually feel some of the hard edges or the burrs, you know, that sometimes are apparent when you have, say, for example, tooling that is starting to wear out. So this is actually really comfortable. I didn't even think about wanting to stone wash this or trying to remove the burrs on the edges. For example, some of the spinners that I got, if I felt that it was a little bit sharp but the design did not fit a stone wash look, I would get a fingernail buffer and then start buffing the edges off, or at least trying to deburr it. But this one just is really, really great the way it arrived. Also, it has tungsten carbide weight, so that gives it a little bit more weight on the outside. Now, this design clearly is not meant for long spin times. You guys can see in the corner up here, I'm getting about 2.5 to 3 minute spins on a two-handed table spin, and that is not bad, honestly speaking. That is not bad. And the next thing I will mention is that the buttons are very, very comfortable. These are the first buttons that came out with these repeating steps design. And they are very, very comfortable. They make for a wonderful grip. And the fact that they have this angled edge on the side means that it's not sharp at all. It wouldn't even be biting into your finger. And these steps are so well done. I believe that they have been slightly, very slightly chamfered, so that it doesn't even feel sharp in the steps as well. It doesn't rub any of your skin off, especially if you have dry skin. Sometimes I do. I mean, someone mentioned that my fingers and the skin around my fingers are pretty busted. Well, that's because I do a lot of hands-on work, you know what I mean? And next, since we're on the buttons, well, basically the buttons are dedicated male and female buttons, and these buttons also are able to be used on other R188 spinners, especially those with a core. On top of that, this comes with a dedicated bearing removal tool, and you'll see that it's a perfect fit, and machining on this tool is also super on point. And this bearing I actually have changed up into a hybrid ceramic bearing. It actually ships out with SBV2s, but you could see that this has a marking here. I believe this is February 2018. That's when it was manufactured by FocusWorks Micro 188 version. So the machining on this is totally on point. You guys can see that there are no flaws in machining. Oh, this is actually my fault. Wait, let me just get that scuff away. Yeah, it's actually my fault because I scratched it. It's nothing to do with FocusWorks, but I wanted you guys to see that the machining is practically flawless. See that? Very, very good machining. And this is going for 140 USD. Well, I'm talking about this particular version, which is a stainless steel body with carbide weights. Of course, they do have from time to time Axis Micros in other materials, especially exotic materials, and those are just really, really beautiful. I think this design just is perfect for exotic metals because you really get to see those metals just pop in this design because it's plain, but it's very, very classic. It's simple, yet it says so much, and it's a very, very functional design. So of course, design-wise, we gotta give props to LRS for this design, although I think everyone can agree that the two of them are a bunch of douchebags now, but oh well, that's what it is. This thing weighs in at about 82 grams in case you guys are not aware already, and I'm gonna give you guys a quick size comparison. This is the Axis Micro up next to a stubby. Very pocketable, very comfortable, and I will have to agree that this is one of the best fidgeters around. There's no sharp edges you have to worry about. The size of it is almost perfect for my hands, and I have like medium to large Asian size hands. My rings that I wear is a US 10.5 in case you guys are wondering, so that you guys can just make that size comparison. It's a very, very good size for me, and I really enjoy it a lot. I think this is totally worth the $140. So that's what I really think about the Axis Micro. It is a great great spinner, very, very classic design. And I think anyone who enjoys spinners, especially if you like tri-spinners, this is something that you want to consider having in your collection, because tri-spinners don't get any more classic than this. Like the moment you look at it, everyone knows, oh man, that is an Axis Micro. So now comes the part when I compare these two, the original version, which is by LRS, and the new version by FocusWorks. Now this version, I have installed a core. You can see that it is a Neo Drive core, 608 to R188 converter by NeoSpin, and I don't want to entertain any questions about NeoSpin because I have no idea what happened to Bo. You know, he just disappeared apparently, and I haven't been in contact with him for a long time. So I have to apologize, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. And this older version, in case you guys don't know, originally held a 608 bearing, and that is why it has a set screw over here. I guess you could say that the main advantage of the older version versus the newer version is the fact that you could easily pop this core out and then have a 608 bearing. Since 608 bearing spinners are making a comeback right now, that's just you know, something that might intrigue or interest you guys. But the buttons that comes with this fit on 608 bearings only, and they are magnetic, so that was a big issue in my opinion. Like I really had a hard time trying to separate the buttons from the spinner itself. Now I've actually got a set of Spinnetic DNA buttons, and I've stonewashed the buttons to match the frame, and I'm actually quite happy with this right now, but no biasness at all. When I put these two side by side, generally I veer towards this, and that kept me thinking, is it because of the bias? And now I will safely say that it is not because of the bias. There's just this spin quality about the new Axis Micro. Even though it is using a core, there's a spin quality about this that this doesn't have, even though this one is using a core. You could hear the rattle. And I believe that that's because at that point of time, spinners were made with 608s in mind. This is way before the mass use of R188 bearings in spinners. But if you look at them now, the FocusWorks version features a core that is smaller in diameter than what you would have on a 608 version instead. And because of this and the great tolerances and machining that FocusWorks has, really provides something totally different, because this one is a completely removable core. All I gotta do is just grab a hex key, loosen up this set screw over here, and I can pop the entire core out. But this one features the core actually milled in. I'm gonna get the bearing removal tool now and just remove this cap so I can show it to you guys. See, it doesn't even wobble at all. It's like perfect, man. The tolerances are really good. So you could see that this is a little bit different because the bearing actually sits in the frame itself, really snug, and it's pressed down here on this end. Let me just pop this bearing out so you guys can see the tolerances, and then we'll set the bearing in here, and you can see that it sits snug in there as well. And so it is with these tolerances that the bearing sits in the slot very snugly with no play at all, and that really translates nicely to a very beautiful spin response. So I'm gonna pop the buttons back on, screw this down, and there we go. Now I'm going to tell you this, I have experienced the original LRS version of the Axis Micro in its 608 form with the original buttons, and I really love those buttons, except that they were magnetic, so it was very difficult to separate, and the fact that it was only meant for 608 spinners, so there was no way for me to kind of downsize those buttons to fit R188 bearings. But now to be able to feel the button design and button style and experience it on a R188 bearing, this is just heaven. Like, I kind of understand now why Tetris just veered towards this, because of that spin quality. That spin response is just something totally different and something that I really enjoy a lot. I'm talking about a lot. So really good job to FocusWorks for this. Next thing is more of a price comparison. The original version, the LRS version, was priced at $180, and it was only by pre-order basis. So you had to pay in full and just sit and wait until they manufactured it and machined it and then shipped it out to you. So that was a really long wait for me. I ordered, I think, in February or in January, and I received it only in May. Even though everyone was promised a 6 to 8 weeks waiting time, it ended up with me waiting till May before I got it. But the thing is, for $180, you would get the Axis Micro, you would get the buttons and a 608 bearing in it, you would get the set screw as well as a hex key to remove this particular set screw. You would get a box that was labeled one by one. Every box was labeled by hand, and also you would get a COA, a name card. In a nutshell, basically you would get a dedicated box, you know. It was handwritten, you had a COA, you had this and all that. So that packaging was really nice. It really enhanced the entire experience because you actually have that box, you take it up, and then you have the spinner laid out inside with the CUA on top and everything like that. But on the flip side, you have the FocusWorks version. This one is ready available stock, and this is going for $140. Now, machining wise, it is, in my opinion, better than this because they actually have gone ahead and done this part up really well. Now, this is a 188 version. I think that they do have 608 versions. I'm not so sure. Please don't quote me on that. Check the website for full details. But you will get a dedicated bearing tool. And the only thing I would say that loses out to the original version is that you don't really get a beautiful box. Okay, I can't really say the word beautiful, but the box and the packaging that came with it doesn't stand up to the box and packaging that came with the LRS version. You get a very generic looking white box with a FocusWorks sticker on it, and then you open it up and you see foam, just a few layers of foam. You have the spinner buried in there and you have the bearing tool buried in there, and that's basically it. But for 40 bucks, you gotta weigh the pros and cons. What would you prefer? Of course, you can't get this one anymore because this one, well, basically LRS has gone to shit, and well, FocusWorks is now doing a wonderful job machining and producing the very beautiful Axis Micro. And once again, basically, I want to just thank Jordy, Wallace and Pluke Jones for reaching out to me, sending this over to me so I can do a comparison and as well as a review. I really appreciate it, and that is what I really feel about this. I feel that anyone out there who is a spinner enthusiast, especially if you have the classic spinners, this is something that you should have in your classic spinner collection. I'm not a classics collector, but I do have quite a few classics. This one is one that I'm very happy to own. Like, this is a very classic design. I think that there's no escape from this design, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of design nuances here have been used and improved on for current day spinners, and this really set the mood and tone for what makes a very good fidgeter. You know, it's one of those spinners where you just grab, pick up and just fidget away. You could easily do dip jabs on this, look. No problem at all, and it's just a joy to fidget with. This really set the standard at the point of time, and it's still a wonderful spinner even in today's standards. That's my final verdict, everyone. So I hope that I provided enough information to help you decide whether or not the Axis Micro is a spinner for you, especially we're talking about the FocusWorks version. So this one goes out of the way because it's all about this baby over here. As always, everyone, links in the description box down below if you're interested in getting one for yourself. I'm not sure if they will ever make any more versions in the future with exotic metals, but I do know that there was this one period when they actually made zirconium ones with, like, I think it was like sapphire or rubies as weights, and that was just so beautiful. I didn't jump on it because, well, it's a little bit expensive for me, you know. I don't really have that kind of money to spend, unfortunately, but that was really beautiful. If you're in that tier and if you're in the game for that kind of thing, that one was really beautiful. Like, generally I see exotic metal spinners like Timasker, zirconium or zircutai and things like that, and I'm like, that's really nice, but that particular zirconium and ruby or sapphire version, wow, that one really was like, I wish I was a baller so I could get that, because that was really beautiful. So who knows what's in store next with FocusWorks? Nobody knows. But right now, I will say that FocusWorks is still doing spinning tops. If you're in the game for spinning tops, well, stay tuned. Apparently, I think they do have the Super Collider version 3. I think it was a version 3. I might be wrong, but that's gonna be up on pre-order soon. I'm not a tops kind of guy, so I can't really give any information about tops. I can't really talk to you guys about tops. But if you are a spinning top guy, consider that. And especially also, I want to mention that they do have a special aluminium milled case for the Axis Micro in case you guys are interested. They are selling that. It's a perfect snug fit. I've seen pictures of it. I've not purchased it because, well, it is also a little bit expensive. It is $90 if I'm not wrong, but you know, just putting out the information there. And that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing in the slice of my life. I hope that you enjoyed this video because, well, I put a lot of time into this. I put a lot of thought, I put a lot of time, and I really just wanted to be as unbiased and I really wanted to be as honest as possible. I just wasn't happy with the previous few takes that I did of this, and I hope that you appreciate the honesty here. And that's about it. I'll catch all of you in the next slice of my life, everyone. And until then, Gaga Boost.